The questions to the document have been noted. I give the call to the member for Bowman.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and an opportunity again to support what I think is a very positive report that's been submitted to this place and a lot of work by the committee members concerned. I wanted to highlight 4 areas in this report that I think are promising and one area that needs to go a little further. I'm very impressed with recommendation 1 and the clarification around made in. Up until now, that made in Australia from imported and local ingredients is incredibly vague, poorly understood by the general community and did need to be improved. And this recommendation 1, to provide only the made in Australia recommendation for 90% content or above, was very positive, and then to use the 50% cut-off for a mostly foreign or mostly domestic, absolutely common sense. There's also obviously a lot of misleading advertising and food labelling, and I don't think any of us would disagree that that's an area that we really have to focus on continuously and vigilantly by the statutory authorities that are concerned. As an eye surgeon, I'll support any increase in size of labelling, but in reality, packages are self-limited for space, and I understand that food manufacturers are very concerned about that recommendation because already they would argue there's a huge amount of information on packaging, and increasing size does present them with certain difficulties. They would point out, I accept that increasingly technology will play a role here. And the main reason for rising today was to first of all point out that there is still a possibility to generate virtuous positive cycles around country of origin labelling. And by that what I mean is to have some kind of competition to increase local content, to make the wavering food manufacturer consider putting more local ingredients in because there's a business return on that investment. Currently there is not. Currently, if you can save a buck and use some foreign products, I don't blame food manufacturers for doing just that to maximise their profit. So we do have a role here by identifying the most Australian product in its class of foodstuffs that are on the shelf. Now, this is the possibility that amongst packaged food, canned food, reconstituted and shelf-stable juices, that there is a possibility there to identify the most Australian juice in its class according to the content of what they use. And this would simply be, as we currently do nutrient analysis on every food through FSANZ anyway, an option for food manufacturers to list what they intend to stick to as a minimum over the next 12 months. And of course, that can change. But where they do win that competition to have the most Australian ingredients in their product, they deserve some form of recommendation. And this will be an industry-supported, not a supermarket cost to bear, but an industry-supported, self-regulating ability to identify that most Australian food product in its class. You can do it with technology, but you can also do it by simply highlighting the label with a transparency that makes the price tag yellow instead of white. And if people can shop and walk down those 2 aisles, really, that have Australian product battling to remain on the shelves, it's mostly packaged mixed goods, it's mostly reconstituted shelf-stable juice, and it's canned food. That's where the battle is, okay? The battle's not down in the domestic cleaning products. It's not down in fresh fruit and veg. That's all clearly labelled. But in that very small area of the supermarket, we should be able to identify that it is the Heinz baked beans, as opposed to someone else's baked beans, that is the most Australian baked bean. You don't need to write anything on a label, just need to have a little flyer or a dangly hanging from the front of the shelf front. Who on earth's going to do that? Well, Heinz will, because they've got a 1 to 2% market advantage for doing it. It's an $80 billion sector, so what does a 1% change to Australian consumption of products do in that sector? Big difference. Hundreds of millions of dollars for Australian food manufacturers. That's a 1% change. Now, plenty of studies being done on how many people will change their purchasing habit if they know what is Australian, and the jury tells us between 3 and 5%. Well, that's a multi-billion-dollar dividend if we can make it simple. Not quite so simple is the IT component, and this was recommendation 6, where we talked about a barcode technology being optional. Look, I think we have to be tougher than that. I think the least that food and grocery manufacturers can do is be part of a barcode system that enables Australians to be able to use that with their smartphone. We've all got smartphones under the age of 70. Everyone's using them. Many of them have 2 of them. It's time for food and grocery manufacturers to stump up. I mean, I'm sick and tired of the Food and Grocery Council representing predominantly foreign food and grocery arrangements, but they put Australian in front. But the AFGC is mostly representing foreign food producers and are probably the greatest stumbling block in getting progress in this area. I know Australians keep asking for more progress, but in reality they go into shopping centres and they go into supermarkets and they don't buy Australian products for a combination of brand loyalty and price. We know that. But as a state, we can make it easier for them to make that shift if they choose to. Government's not going to do it, then I'll tell you who will. It'll be the loyalty programs. Coles and Woolies, between them, 8 million and 7 million customers respectively. I've got their cards in my wallet. Most of us carry those cards, and I'm not going to fall to the trap of being pulled up, Deputy Speaker, by using props, but I carry 6 cards, and 2 of them are shopping centre, supermarket loyalty programs. I do that to get the free fuel. But these guys collect an enormous amount of data on my shopping preferences. Here are enormous opportunities for me to opt in this profile and tell Coles or Woolworths that I have an interest in low fructose foods, high energy foods, low cholesterol foods, or Australian country of origin products. It should be a relatively simple matter for me then to walk with my phone and be able to scan what I'm buying, or instead be able to wirelessly download from my loyalty program customer profile everything that I've bought over the last 5 years. That can tell me what my preferences are, and then I should be receiving SMSs every time constituent analysis changes, country of origin of that product changes, or price changes. If there's a special on, I should be able to get it as an SMS on my phone as I enter the store. I say that because it's probably 5 years away, but if that's where we're heading, as a state, we need to provision for that. We need to provision for the possibility that if I care about Australian-produced goods, all that data is already collected, because already the supermarket loyalty programs know the constituent analysis of every food. They've done that already for Fazans. They know the star labelling of every food because we've now got that agreed through states and territories. It's a relatively simple matter for them to connect the star ratings with the foods and then allow customers to talk about what they want to know about what's on the shelves. In the end, the state may have to do very little, but facilitate these programs to occur. I'm excited about those potentials, and if it can help Australians buy a little more country of origin labelled products, we may be able to get around some of the more complex areas of labelling and mandating the printing of information on scarce label space and have people empowered through smartphone devices to do it.